Hello again, folks. Nice to be with you today. My wife's best friend died suddenly a few months ago. Fortunately, I can say with confidence that Muriel knew the Lord. The funeral was in compliance with the COVID-19 regulations. The sitting positions named at the end of each of the available pews in the church. I was the only non-family member to carry the coffin. A nice acknowledging touch of Muriel's deep friendship with Janice for over 25 years. In addition to the minister of the family church, there was a minister from another church where the family liked to attend for special services. Both ministers spoke well of Muriel, with great freedom in speaking. A sense of freedom which comes when it is clear that the deceased had invited the Lord into their life. They were able in confidence to say that Muriel had gone on to a better place. There was overflow seating in the hall, again in keeping with the COVID regulations, and a great many folk paid their respects by lining the route from her home a couple of miles away. After the interment, friends tactfully stood about in the graveyard waiting for an opportunity to express condolences to her husband and two grown-up sons. Muriel had called with Janice on a Friday, took ill on the Sunday and was rushed to hospital and died on the Tuesday, with the funeral the following Friday. Muriel was well known in the community, and there was a real sense of shock by her sudden death. When we called at the grave a couple of days later, the clay was nicely covered by some beautiful stones, which the family had then on top of it their family flowers. I noticed that the stones were the same as those on the grave alongside, being the grave of Muriel's in-laws. I later learned that these stones had come from a beach in Donegal. Muriel's in-laws had historic links with Donegal. A lovely touch. Muriel knew the Lord, but like many would have been modest in talking about that. Janice and I visited the grave again recently, and looking at the stones, verses in Habakkuk and Luke came to mind. Firstly, in Habakkuk 2 verse 11, where it tells us that the stones of the wall will cry out. And then again in Luke 19 and verse 40, where Jesus says, I tell you, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. The Bible talks often about stones. There are piles of stones, sacred stones, precious stones, pelted with stones, living stones, costly stones, boundary stones, to name but some of the references in the Bible to stones. But stones that speak out or cry out, well, that's interesting. In Habakkuk, the scene is of the prophet taking his concerns to the Lord. And the Lord answers him in great detail. In chapter 2, verse 11, where stones gets a mention with, the stones of the wall will cry out, and the beams of the woodwork will echo it. When a property comes to the market for sale, the selling agent will commission a photographer to take some pictures which can be used to advertise the sale of the property. Especially nowadays with great cameras and wide-angle lenses, the property can be made to look very appealing. But on visitation in person, often the reality is different. Seeing the actual building can sometimes be a great disappointment. The pictures suggest one thing, but seeing the actual building perhaps with its faults or weaknesses, can reveal something very different. Yes, the physical reality, the very stones of the building, so to speak, can show or say something very different. In Luke 19, there is the setting of the triumphal entry into Jerusalem and the well-known story of Jesus sitting on a colt. The Pharisees clearly don't like the expressions of joy coming from the disciples, asking Jesus to rebuke them. Jesus replies, "If they keep quiet, the stones will cry out." This scene had been predicted in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9, some 500 years earlier. So even if the disciples had been made quiet, the significance of the day would have been made known. It had been planned by God. It took place in the will of God. There will always be events in our lives where we cannot glean an understanding of why the event should happen. No more so than the unexpected loss of a loved one. And yet we know we are not designed to live forever. But even knowing that, seeing someone leave this world earlier than we would like or hope for can be very difficult to take in. And often the departed may have been confident in their relationship with the Lord, but not one for talking about it. But the way that they have lived their life can be a great testimony to God at work in their life. The beautiful stones on Muriel's grave bore testimony, spoke of the love of the family that she enjoyed, passing from generation to generation. And the attendance of friends at the church and all those along the route revealed the sadness of their loss. As I said earlier, Muriel called with Janice on a Friday, took ill on the Sunday night, and we received the news of the seriousness of the situation on the Monday morning, and Muriel was pronounced dead on the Tuesday morning. When the news came through on the Monday morning, a little chorus started to form in my mind, which I felt reflected Muriel's faith. And with the news of Tuesday, I sat down and wrote a little song. I call it Muriel's Song, I Will Follow Jesus. After the funeral, I emailed the words and the suggested tune of Loch Lomond to our Rhona, who recorded it for me. Rhona singing Muriel's song follows shortly. My final point. You may feel inadequate about sharing your faith in Jesus. Most people do. But does your life, the way that you live and talk, reflect a relationship with the Lord? It's as if your stones, your life, can speak for you. Thank you for listening. Over to you, Rhona.
He came to earth on his Father's command, and he journeyed here for those short years. He healed the sick, and he fed the poor, and he did the work he was called to. Jesus, you are my rock, Jesus, you're my friend, and I will follow you to the sweet end, for you have touched my life and caused me to live and now I'll be with you forever. Beyond the cross and beyond the grave, which Jesus left behind on this earth, returning to spend time with his Father, and keeping an eye on this earth. Jesus, you are my rock, Jesus, you're my friend, and I will follow you to the sweet end, for you have touched my life and caused me to live, and now I'll be with you forever. It was sad that he had to leave so soon, but now we realize why and understand, for he left the Holy Spirit to move in our hearts and unite us with him forever. Jesus, you are my rock, Jesus, you're my friend, and I will follow you to the sweet end, for you have touched my life and caused me to live, and now